There were times Joe Biden greatly disappointed me, even angered me.
That is not a headline. That is Kamala Harris finally being human. What she said next left everyone silent. In a quiet London studio, Stephen Bartlett sat across from the Vice President of the United States. But this was not politics. This was pain, honesty, and memory colliding in real time. Kamala begins not as a politician, but as a person.
She speaks of that phone call before the Trump debate, the one where Joe Biden called not to lift her up, but to question her.
Like on the day of my debate with Trump, the stakes were so high. And the president calls, and he said to me, it just was so unnecessary.
Her voice wavers. It was so unnecessary, she says. For the first time, the mask slips, and we glimpse what power costs.
The most powerful people in the world are still human enough to hurt.
When the election did not go her way, she says the feeling was identical to the grief she felt when her mother died.
I was in a state of shock. Like, I haven't felt anything similar to the emotion I felt that day, other than the grief I felt when my mother died. And I knew what was going to happen to our country. So I had a hard time reconciling that we can't still do something about it, because I grew up in an environment where everyone was fighting for justice and for equality.
A nation in chaos, her faith in democracy breaking.
I knew what was going to happen to our country. Sometimes the fight just takes a while. Sometimes losing is not the end. It is the beginning of what history remembers.
Her story rewinds to Oakland, to a 19-year-old immigrant mother from India and a Jamaican scholar father. She was raised around protest signs and the rhythm of justice. Her mother told her, "Take care of your sister." And in that small command, Kamala Harris learned her life purpose, to protect others. Some people are born into comfort, others are forged by responsibility. From a young prosecutor to California Attorney General, she fought predators, fraud, and corruption. But the worst moments were not the battles she won, they were the ones she could not. She remembers crying in a courthouse bathroom after realizing a case against a child abuser would not hold.
I remember going into the bathroom of the courthouse and crying, because I knew a jury would not have enough to convict.
I have thought about that little girl for years.
The justice system does not always break the guilty. Sometimes it breaks the people who care.
How do you deal with the stress of carrying the world?
I work out every morning, no matter how little I have slept.
A simple answer, but behind it, the discipline of someone who refuses to collapse under expectation. She admits she is a perfectionist. And every night, even as vice president, she lies awake asking, what more could I have done? Even the leaders we follow question if they have done enough. If 24-year-old Kamala met the woman she is now, she would see the same fire, just quieter, wiser. She was fearless, Kamala says.
She was fearless.
She was fearless.
She was fearless. She didn't hear, no, it can't be done. And whether it was the first case that I had, and I was a young prosecutor, and I was going through the files, and it was a Friday evening, and I realized that the person who had been arrested had young children at home, a woman, and all the courts were shutting down, and I went to the courtroom, and I asked the judge, please take the bench again. She has young children. She can't stay in over the weekend.
She did not hear no, but wisdom taught her something vital. You cannot change everyone.
That is not defeat, that is strategy.
You have to place your effort where it will matter most.
Wisdom is knowing who is ready to change and who is not. Stephen brings up LeBron post showing past vice presidents, all white men before Kamala.
She laughs softly.
And everyone else thought that was the image of who could do the job. When she walks into a room, she carries the invisible pride of those who cannot be there.
You may often be, the only one who walks into a boardroom, a courtroom, a meeting room, who looks like yourself or has had your life experiences. But when you walk in that room, chin up, shoulders back, knowing there are so many people who are not in that room, who are so proud of you walking in that room and expect that you will use the voice that you carry.
Her advice: walk in, chin up, shoulders back. They are proud of you.
Representation is not symbolism, it is proof. There is someone in every successful person's life who convinced them they were special, and they believed it. For Kamala, it was her first grade teacher, Mrs. Wilson, and her mother.
She says, maybe I was not special, but I believed them.
That's my mother. That's exactly right. How about that? Yeah. Where'd you get all these pictures?
Well, stalking,
Yeah, that's Mrs. Wilson.
And so why is thinking of Mrs. Wilson helping you when you walk into those rooms?
Because there is, I think, a key to success that each of us who has achieved success probably shares, which is there has been someone at least, and it could be a parent, it could be a teacher, it could be a neighbor, it could be a pastor, someone who convinced you were special. You may not have been particularly special, but they told you were and you believed them.
Sometimes all it takes is one person who believes before you do. Later, she reveals how the White House-owned staff undermined her accomplishments.
You talk about how some of the president's staff were basically suppressing you a little bit, suppressing your accomplishments because you're a threat to them. Mm-hmm. And I think you were told pretty early on, or you'd heard pretty early on from a chief of staff that the vice president is kind of seen as a threat to the president.
So the lore has it that the outgoing chief of staff to the president will tell the incoming chief of staff to the incoming president, regardless of political party. Rule number one, watch the vice president.
That the president team saw her as a threat. They thought if I shined, he dimmed. It was not just painful, it was human.
Too many people see power as a zero-sum game.
The brightest rooms still have shadows. Then, the moment that went viral, the night of her debate with Trump.
So the day of the debate was after that intense period of preparation. And then that morning I had a meeting with my team. I thought it was going to be more prep, but they actually were wonderful and just basically said to me, you're ready.
Hours before she walked on stage, Biden called, but not to wish her luck, to complain about gossip in Pennsylvania. I hung up the phone. It was unbelievable. I was angry.
And then she delivers the line that defines her. His motivation was all about himself.
Even allies can break your heart. But when the lights came on that night, she smiled. She had written a smiley face on her debate notepad, a reminder to have fun.
I wrote a smiley face. And because I just decided I was going to have fun. Because one of the things about these kinds of debates in particular is the person who's having fun wins.
Because the person who is having fun wins. And she did. She found humor in chaos and turned composure into her armor. Grace under fire is not luck, it is discipline. Kamala warns about the age of disinformation, about how emotion beats logic online.
Gaslighting, right? So there's a whole lot of gaslighting happening, which is basically misrepresenting, lying, scapegoating, distracting, right, from what's really occurring, including like this whole thing where he's coming down so hard with these mass deportations, which is picking up a lot of American citizens, by the way, in the process, hardworking people in the process. And what he would have people believe is that your predicament is because this is what he actually is trying to sell. Your predicament is because of relatively powerless people. So you don't focus on the powerful people. He's basically saying to the American people, you have less because of people who have even less than you.
But she believes truth still wins if we teach people to look deeper. Do not assume everyone is working with the same information, she says. And then she reminds us, sometimes the issue of race itself becomes a national security issue. The truth cannot go viral if we stop sharing it. Hey, if you are still watching right now, you are clearly one of those people who looks for meaning, not noise. So, if stories like this move you, hit subscribe, not just to follow me, but to follow conversations that matter. For all the power, Kamala's strength is not in the title. It is in the way she remembers her mother voice.
Do not you ever let anyone tell you who you are. You tell them who you are.
And maybe that is the story of this entire interview. A woman reminding the world and herself that leadership starts from the inside. Power does not define you, purpose does. If this conversation stirred something in you, go watch the full interview on The Diary of a CEO, because what Stephen Bartlett captured was not just an interview, it was history told through emotion. And to Kamala Harris, thank you for reminding us that even the highest office in the world can still hold humility, heartbreak, and hope. Watch the full episode on The Diary of a CEO. Thank you, Stephen Bartlett. Subscribe for more stories that move you.